You're listening to the Computer Repair Academy podcast, a show that's your go to podcast for easy tech fixes, pro tricks, computer repair tips, and everything you need to keep your computer running smoothly. So if you're ready to upgrade your tech game, then let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Computer Repair Academy podcast. I'm Jay.
And I'm Jeremy. In today's episode, we're both discussing something that affects all of us, passwords, or as I like to call them, the keys to your digital kingdom.
Yeah, and let's be honest. If your password is password123 or big boy, your kingdom is more of a cardboard box.
Seriously though, passwords are the first line of defense when it comes to protecting your online accounts. And yet so many people are still using weak passwords or the same one for everything. So today, we're talking about password best practices, how to make sure your accounts are safe, and the magic of password managers. Oh, and stick around for a real-life password horror story that'll make you rethink your entire digital life.
Yep, it's not just about keeping out hackers. It's about locking down your entire digital world, from your email to your banking info to that secret folder of memes you swear you're not addicted to.
So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's start locking down your digital life.
All right, let's kick things off with the basics. Password best practices. If you're still using something like your dog's name or your favorite sports team as your password, we've got a problem.
Exactly. The first rule of passwords is make them strong. And by strong, we don't mean just adding a 1 to the end of your usual password.
A strong password should be at least 12 characters long and a mix of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. Think of it as building a digital fortress. The more complex the password, the harder it is for someone to break in.
Right. And you want to avoid using the same password across multiple accounts. I get it. It's tempting. One password for everything sounds easy, but it's risky. If one site gets hacked and your password is compromised, hackers can use it to access all your accounts.
Correct, and you'd be surprised how common that is. People don't realize that once hackers get one password, they try it on every major platform. Email, social media, online banking, everything. It's like handing them a master key.
Okay, so here are a few quick password tips for our everyone. Make it long, at least 12 characters. Use a good mix of letters, numbers, and symbols. Avoid using personal information like birthdays or pet names. And most importantly, use different passwords for different accounts. Look, I know this sounds simple and almost silly, but I've been in computer repair for over 20 years, and it's still rare to see proper passwords and password management used.
Geez, that last one is huge. Speaking of password management, how do you keep track of all these unique, complex passwords?
Well, enter the password manager. This is the tool that solves the problem of remembering all those different passwords we're telling you to create.
Yeah, password managers are like the digital equivalent of a super organized vault. They generate strong, unique passwords for each account and store them securely, so you don't have to remember anything except one master password.
And no, that master password shouldn't be password123 either.
Good point. Some of the top password managers out there include LastPass, Dashlane, and Bitwarden. Jeremy, I know you really like Bitwarden. But these tools not only store your passwords, but they can also fill them in for you when you're logging into websites, so you don't have to type them every time. Plus, they encrypt all your data, so even if someone tries to break in, they can't read your passwords.
Another thing I love about password managers is that they alert you when a site has been compromised. So if one of the websites you have an account on gets hacked, you'll know right away and can change your password, hopefully, before anything bad happens.
And let's be real, nobody has time to remember dozens of long, complex passwords. A password manager takes that mental load off and makes sure you're staying secure without the hassle.
Agreed. So for anyone who's overwhelmed by the idea of creating and remembering a bunch of new passwords, a password manager is a game changer. It's the ultimate way to simplify your digital security.
All right, Jeremy, it's time for the part of the show where we scare the living daylights out of the listeners. Ready for a real-life password horror story?
Oh yeah, this one's a doozy. So we had a client, let's call him Dave, who had been using the same password for years. And when I say the same password, I mean he used it for everything. His email, social media, banking, online shopping, everything.
Let me guess, it was something like Dave123.
Close. It was actually Dave Rocks one. Sadly, he thought that adding the number at the end made it super secure. Anyway, one day, Dave gets an email saying his account on some obscure site had been breached. No big deal, right? Except for one tiny problem, he was using that same Dave Rocks one password across all his accounts. Within hours, hackers had used that password to break into his email, where they found all sorts of juicy information and could easily reset account passwords. From there, they got into his bank account, his PayPal, and even his social media. They changed the email address on accounts, the passwords to accounts. They even updated the cell number on the accounts and essentially removed Dave from ownership from his accounts.
Yikes. That's like a hacker's dream scenario. I mean, that email breach is the biggie here. It's basically like handing the hackers a map to your entire digital life.
Exactly. By the time Dave realized what was happening, they had already made several unauthorized purchases and were even emailing people from his accounts pretending to be him in hopes to scam his friends and family. Hey, this is Dave. Can you send me $500? I'm stuck in a foreign country.
Wow, classic scam. So what happened next?
Well, he had to spend weeks cleaning up the mess. He had to call his bank, freeze his accounts, fight to recover his email, reset every password for every account. It was a digital nightmare. The worst part? All of it could have been avoided if he'd just used different passwords for each account and a password manager to keep track of them.
Oof. That's a rough one. But it's a perfect example of why password reuse is so dangerous. Hackers are getting more sophisticated every day, and it only takes one weak link in the chain for them to break through.
So if you're listening to this and thinking, oh no, I'm a Dave, don't worry. It's never too late to take control of your passwords. Start using a password manager and change those reused passwords to something complex and proper.
Now, before we wrap up, there's one more thing we need to talk about. Two-factor authentication, or 2FA. It's like adding an extra deadbolt to your front door.
Perfect analogy. Even if a hacker somehow gets hold of your password, they still can't get into your account without that second form of authentication. Usually, this is a code sent to your phone or email, or it could be a fingerprint scan.
Yeah, it's like your account saying, oh, you know the password? Cool, but can you prove it's really you? And unless the hacker has your phone or other verification method, they're out of luck. Now, hackers are getting a bit more sophisticated when it comes to getting around or cracking two-factor authentication, but it's still a good idea to utilize it.
So if you're not using two-factor authentication yet, turn it on. Most major platforms, Google, Facebook, your banks, etc., offer it. It's one of the easiest and most effective ways to protect your accounts.
Seriously, folks, this is a no-brainer. It's an extra step, but it could save you a ton of stress if someone tries to hack your account.
All right, that's a wrap on today's episode. We've covered a lot. Password best practices, the magic of password managers, and even a cautionary tale that should make you rethink how you protect your accounts.
Yeah, that's right. And if there's one thing to take away from today, it's this. Don't be a Dave. Use unique, strong passwords for every account, invest in a password manager, and turn on two-factor authentication. Your digital life is worth protecting.
And remember, staying secure online doesn't have to be hard. With the right tools and a little effort, you can lock down your accounts without pulling your hair out.
Thanks for joining us today on the Computer Repair Academy podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please make sure to subscribe and check out our other episodes, where we dive into more tech tips and tricks to make your digital life easier.
Until next time, keep those passwords strong and may your account stay hacker-free. This is Jeremy.
And Jay, signing off. Thanks again for tuning in to the Computer Repair Academy podcast. Until next time, keep those PCs running smoothly.